think the reason people play games is because we're naturally curious. So whatever you give us with enough time, we're going to start playing with it and eventually turn it into some sort of a game experience. It's what comes out of playing with stuff. And you figure out what the best way to play with it is for you. You make up rules to introduce it to other people, to play with them, and you end up with a game. The most important thing is having in mind how the player will experience that game. So not just what you want it to be, but rather giving it to a person and seeing what they do with it, what's logical for them, what's the most fun, what is boring for them, maybe changing that or putting it out, and just like giving it to the players, giving it to other people, because it's not just, it's not just your story, something you want to make, it's something people will interact with. So if you want to have a certain experience, you need to take them into account as well. To design an inclusive game, I don't think there's really a formula for it, but I think similar principles apply when you're designing anything at all, like a mug, a pair of scissors. Are those scissors inclusive for left-handed people? Stuff like that. So you see how somebody's using something, how you want them to use something, and you see how it can be the most convenient for the majority of people. So games are just a bit more complex sometimes because you can't see it in advance. It also happens sort of abstractly. But I do think that there's this circle of testing something out, seeing how it works, and seeing how you want to. Because a game cannot be everything at the same time. You have to, at some point, draw a barrier. You cannot make a game, if it uses language, to have it be in every language at the same time. But maybe you can use symbols that signify something for most people. Maybe not everybody. Not everybody knows, will not have the same association for a stop sign. But for your players, this stop sign might be a substitute for a card that says, okay, now you have to do this. So I think the same general principles of design apply to games as well, just maybe a bit more specific. I think you can teach inclusiveness through games, because games provide experiences for us, but they're sort of safe experiences. They are impactful, but we usually willingly play games. And in doing so, we have a safe zone where we can experiment with what we take from the world and what we bring into it afterwards. And I think definitely inclusion is part of any process. And so you can't put inclusion as an educational outcome in a game. It's just a matter of how you afterwards make the player aware during the game or afterwards, or maybe they'll take it with them, this experience that they had, and apply it later in life. The biggest mistake is people try to make an educational game by having the game assume what the designer already knows. If you want to make a game about inclusion, make the game be exclusive in of itself, because to learn about inclusion, you need to feel what it's like to not be included. So don't make a perfect saint-like game. Make it dirty, because it is safe. It's not the world. It's going to give the player an experience of how not to behave, and from that they can learn. And I think a lot of people approach their games like they're babies, they need to behave perfectly, and the game will just shine and be fun and teach people stuff. Oftentimes we need to learn through mistakes, so my approach most of the time is to have the game allow for those mistakes that we can learn from. I had a very good time facilitating a game design process with a group. They wanted it to be about folk music in a way, mixing tradition and specific cultures, subcultures, and the genres in music that produced. And they wanted to have this complex game, a game with materials you gather, events you go to. They had this one mechanic, which was creating a song on the spot out of words that you're given. And I was facilitating this process. And at one point we realized they're having the most fun with this one specific part of the game. And I told them, okay, well, just drop everything else, make this the game. And that's what they did. And we ended up playing that for days to come. So that was a very nice process.